Hello and welcome to the very final edition of the Rugby League Not So Round Table.
It's not very round today.
It isn't very round. It's just me and you, Charlie.
Yes.
We're answering all the questions that we didn't get to, and we're going to also be recapping our thoughts on the Rugby League Round Table. That's right.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, massive thank you to everyone who's engaged with the show during the off season. It's been great to see how many listens it's got. It's been fantastic, and it was cool to put the show together. It was a different sort of crew that hasn't sort of been seen together in most normal rugby league media circles. So it was good fun to be a part of it.
Well, I really enjoyed sitting there listening to the different points of view on the issues, different perspectives, even views that like I used to have, like Dale, and then how I've changed in time, and even my opinions, were, I guess I give them a lot of thought after sitting down and discussing them. And I think, like any issue and complex issues, that there's not necessarily a right or a wrong answer. There's no silver bullet. There's no definitive okay, so we talk about expansion. No, it has to be in this corridor of Southeast Queensland or in Sydney or in Perth or in another New Zealand team or Papua New Guinea or wherever it may be. There's no right or wrong answer. There's just different points of view and different opinions. And I think it's fantastic to hear those different points of view. And thank you for all our listeners and all our fans that stayed engaged. And one of the most common questions, Charlie, was, are we going to be doing this through the year? We're not going to be doing it through the year, but it is something that we will repeat next off season. I think it's the best time of year to do that. And I think you get better engagement and better input from the guests that way. And they're not thinking about the week-to-week football. Obviously, they deal with issues each and every week, but I feel it's best suited for that off-season time slot, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it will be 10 issues again. What those issues will be will sort of depend on what happens in the next 12 months of rugby league, and some random issues will pop up that will dominate the headlines, and I'm sure we'll cover them. We did actually have a good comment from one of the people on YouTube who suggested some topics as well, so I might be able to just go and rip those off, but I'll bring that question up a little bit later.
But again, this is all part of our show. We want engagement from the fans. I don't know if we'll be able to fit a fan on, and probably finding that fan will be quite difficult. That's across all the issues, but we love to hear from you. And again, I say this all the time, I love it when my views get challenged as well. So
we have thought about doing the first roundtable show as a live show, and then we can get fans involved that way, but that's still working through though.
In the pipeline.
Yeah, in the pipeline. It's a long way away as well. But before we do start the mailbag, I wanted to bring some up because basically the fabric of English Rugby League has been changed forever.
Yeah. Well, the last episode of the Rugby League Round Table was all about concussion.
Yeah.
And overnight or in the past,
I think it was over the weekend on Friday. It might have been Friday, but yeah.
Quite very, very recently, within the past few days, the Rugby Football League has accepted 44 recommendations from the Sports Brain Health and Clinical Advisory Group or subgroup.
And when you say signed off, it means officially they are happening from the year 2025. This is
2024 at the community level.
Right, yep. But 2025 for Super League, and I'm guessing
with a view to introduce them in 2025.
Right, okay, yep. And some of those ones, they include the height to be lowered to below the armpit below the armpit, yes. Which is something that's been done in union.
Well, just because these guidelines have been accepted, I think if you recall, English Rugby Union had a not too dissimilar rule overhaul at the community game, so it wouldn't affect the top level international Premiership rugby and European rugby, but it would affect the community level. Now, quite often in cases like this, and what happened in rugby union was the people who are, I guess, the loudest in this debate got their way, and there was no response from the other side because everyone just stays quiet and goes along to say, yes, we want a safer game. But when their recommendations were accepted, from my memory, and please forgive me if I'm incorrect, but rules were drastically changed at the community game in terms of, I think it was the belly button
Right.
Now, uproar, the people on the other side, or those that were remaining quiet, went into meltdown, and those rules got changed back. So we're still waiting on the response. I have read online some of the comments, and it's far from complimentary about some of these changes that are coming in.
Yeah.
Now,
I read the article as professional rugby league. It's locked in
for 2025.
For 2025,
well,
yeah.
Nothing's locked in.
Okay, all right.
Well, they might say it's with a view,
Yeah.
or that this is what we will do in 2025.
But the laws haven't been officially changed yet.
No, not yet. Not for 2025.
Okay.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can do that, Charlie. I think it will be a wait and see, and let's see how this goes. Now, I don't want anyone to be confused about what I'm saying here. I'm naturally skeptical of these of the 44 change, or well, basically 44 recommendations by an advisory group, where basically let's quote this. So we believe they are essential, as rugby league must respond to developments in medical and scientific knowledge to prioritize the safety of those that play, and also that they offer exciting opportunities to increase the appeal and accessibility of rugby league, especially at junior and community levels. There's another quote as well: make the game safer and more accessible at all levels. And I'm like, is that the primary goal of our sport, to make it safe? Like safer, like 100% safe? I think and look, things like inclusivity are a bit of a buzzword at the moment. I don't know if tackle and I don't know if contact sport is for every kid.
No.
Is for every member of the community. I think you play, certain people are attracted to this sport because there is that physical element to it. I think some of these changes that they've implemented will have a positive effect on the individual and potential long-term health consequences, and possibly have a positive impact on things like participation and reducing the potential of a traumatic brain injury, a degenerative brain issue further down the track. But I've got to say, I think some of them are a massive, are a bit of an overreach, and the unintended consequences of these decisions could be, incredibly detrimental to the game.
Even if you look at it from like a really long-term perspective, we make the game safer, there is a good chance that rugby league could be lessen in popularity due to changes of the game to people. If you get, like you spoke about in the round table, getting rid of the kickoff, all that sort of stuff. And the only reason I played rugby league as a kid was because I really liked the sport rugby league. And my mum did not want me to play rugby league at all. She was lasting, but I just sort of begged every single season. And eventually when I was like 11 years old, I was able to play it.
You do have that effect that you can be.
If you just ask enough.
Yeah. You especially, you can just weigh you down, break your spirits, and you just go, you know what, Charlie? Just go and play it, mate.
Exactly.
I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not necessarily about the safety also always being the reason why parents let their kids play sport or not. Eventually, it's just the kids can wear down the parents. If you ask something enough, you're probably going to get what you want eventually as a kid.
And also, if you look at like what sports are played and where, it's a cultural thing. Like, the rugby league's played here in Australia because it's ingrained in the culture. It's not played in Zimbabwe because it's not part of the culture there. It's not played in the West Indies because it's not part of the culture there. Cricket is in those countries. Like soccer is ingrained in the culture in most of Britain. Spain doesn't have cricket because it's not ingrained in the culture. So culture plays a big part, and I guess I care about the game so much. It's given me a great life. And if the Rugby Football League are trying to increase participation by bringing in these changes at the community level, they've basically from under nines, no contact. I don't disagree with that. I think if the experts say that, then you got to trust them. I just don't think that at any other level, so say under 10s, they maybe have a tackle safe program. I don't know if any parent or any member of the community is going to see, because let's not forget this, that tackling around the head has always been outlawed. Yeah. It's never been allowed. Yeah. So if the shoulder once was okay and you hit the head, you should be penalised for that.
Yeah.
Now, reducing that tackle height from shoulder to armpit, I don't know if there's anyone there that thinks about decisions rationally. Like, is there any parent or, like, say, any member of the community, any child that's thinking about playing a sport goes, oh, I'm in now. Like, is that going to make a difference? Like, is that going to significantly reduce the risk? Like, it will to an extent. There'll be some consequences of different tackle height that may lead to other styles of head collision and concussion.
I'm surprised at the community level and even more so the junior level. The most dangerous part about playing rugby league as a junior is the weight discrepancy between big kids playing who, there might be some kid who's gone through puberty a lot earlier, 16 years old, is 100 kilos, and then there's this other kid who's 50 kilos. Yeah, that's far more dangerous at the community level, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, arguably, Charlie, but there's arguably benefits from that. Like, playing against people that are bigger than you. So one of the recommendations is everybody plays within their true age limit. We had Mitchell Pearce on the podcast.
On this Sunday it's coming. Yeah.
Coming on this Sunday.
Yeah.
He spoke about he was 16 playing 18s for Australian schoolboys, 2 years above himself. I myself played a year above myself. For England at 15, I was playing for England at 16. Like, that was so beneficial for my development. I was one of the older kids in my year group. So I benefited from that by playing a year above at certain times, and I think that there are benefits from being out your depth or being pushed a little bit further. Not everybody, but for some. But I just, so let's look at this situation. So we've not even played a game yet, and we're talking about these issues. And I know online there's been a lot of negative comments around this about the Rugby Football League's position on this. I don't know how many new people this is going to bring to the game, because participation, viewership, fat memberships, TV audiences, etc., in England are down. I don't know how much this is going to do to bring new fans into the game and new participants, or bring people back to the game, versus what it's going to do to the people that are currently involved in the game. Like, I don't know how many are going to walk away from it, but I just don't know how many more people are going to come to the game.
Yeah, but also, mate, if this stuff does go through to professional rugby league, which is the Super League over in England, which it seems very likely that it will, they're talking. One of the things that stands out the most is the chance of, like, they're going to have restrictions on minutes played. So if you're a forward, you're only going to be able to play 2,000 minutes in a calendar year, which is what, 20 games of footy, 25 games of footy,
25 80-minute games.
Yeah, so exactly. But then if you play representative football, so if it's a World Cup year, then all of a sudden you'll have, one of the key English forwards who's had played maybe huge minutes throughout the whole World Cup only be able to play in maybe 15 total games for his Super League side.
So.
And the backs, they can only play 2,400 minutes, so which is 30 games of footy.
Yeah, so I think currently as it stands in the Super League, I think it's 27 round games, plus 5 Challenge Cup if you make the final, plus playoffs. So
minimum 34 games. If if that team goes to the grand final and the Challenge Cup final, you're looking at what, 34 games?
34. Now look, maybe there is something in that where, but something like the forwards, like if you're an edge back rower, for instance, playing 25 games out of a 34-game season. I don't.
Well, it will change what sort of edge back rows clubs look for. They're not going to look for the 80-minute back rower. They're going to look for the explosive 60-minute back rower.
And I tend to agree that like the demand on the current Super League player is too large, but then and they arguably do play too many games over there. But like this is a solution, but I think what it does to the individual is just I don't know if it's right for the individual.
Yeah.
If that it's kind of I'm sort of I know I'm not making sense when I say that. Maybe just reduce the number of fixtures. But then
commercially they don't really want to do that because they make more money out of it. Mate, it's one of these issues that is just
because for me, I haven't seen anything on education of the players of the risk. And I don't think players understand the risk. And maybe this is part of protecting players from themselves.
I don't think players care about the risk.
You know,
I think players are out there because they want to play rugby league and it provides an incredible life for them.
And it pays.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee if let's say Saudi Arabia start a nines competition and there's no games allowed to be played in the month of December, and they say we're going to start a nines comp in December and we're going to throw crazy money at it. Like what the Live Golf or IPL do in cricket.
Yep.
Players will play and they'll take on the risk and they'll go, all of a sudden we don't play enough games because I get paid more. It wouldn't be an issue, and I'm not saying it's right to be motivated by money, but players are, and people have a very short career and they're very aware of that. So look, to limit the number of games, I think I understand why they're trying to do that, but I think there's some unintended consequences, and I prefer the risk to be accurately portrayed and given to the player, so they can make their own informed decision about whether or not it's right to go on. And then I'm just trying to put myself in that headspace of, like, you know, when I was playing for St Helens in England over the Easter schedule, play Good Friday, play Easter Monday, and then back up the following Friday. So you're playing 3 games in the space of 8 days. And like the idea of rest, it's like, no, I don't want to rest. Anytime I got picked in a tour team, and, you know, they were looking to rotate the squad, don't rest me, coach. I want to play. I love to play. And maybe it was detrimental to my performance later down the track, but
in your case, it wasn't, because if it was detrimental, you wouldn't have been able to play for the length of time you played for.
Yeah, you just don't know, and I guess.
But that's where you can't let sports science run the sport of rugby league.
Look, we've not even. I think there needs. I don't know who was part of this sports brain health and clinical advisory group. I don't know who was part of that, but it'd be interesting to see if there was any input from the current players and the current coaches, because we've not even got Charlie to, you know, at the moment that there's plenty of dogs barking. There's some that aren't yet, and the people you got to feel for is the match officials. So on the Rugby Football League's website, there's a number of examples of, okay, this is a legal tackle, and one of those particular legal tackle is so close to being 2 of the players going low, and I think there's even 3 in that tackle, and they nearly clash heads, which is another issue, which may come. But then there's a kick-off tackle that they say is illegal, and I don't know how anybody executes that kick-off tackle by going below the armpit. I just don't know if it's.
You know what's strange?
I just don't know if it's doable. And then, right, the referees at the moment they don't necessarily referee the laws of the game. They referee like what they see and how they're interpreting things. With something like this, which is so subjective, like you're just entering an absolute minefield, and the flow-on effect from that could be like, I don't like this game anymore. And if they introduce this at the professional level, I think
because it won't be the final thing that they introduce at professional level. This would just be the start of probably a series of changes over many, many years, and all of a sudden you've got a product that is more similar to OzTag than rugby league.
Yeah, but as what we know it, and look, like naturally change people like, oh, I like what we've got, and we've seen the game change so much over the years, and you know, some people that loved the game in the 80s wouldn't enjoy the product that we see now, and I think we are going in the right direction, and it is entertaining, but just because we've made changes doesn't mean that they're the right thing to do. You know, but I think what, and look, I'm not privy to all the information that was presented at this, I guess, this board meeting, but I think that what I personally would have liked to have seen implemented would be not too dissimilar to what we had at Magic Round a couple of seasons ago, when it was sin bin city and send-offs, and go, this is illegal, and now we are going to interpret the laws of the game, and the consequence of any form of head contact means you are sin binned. Rather than now, I think what they've tried to do by designing this way is like, okay, if you aim for the armpit and you get that wrong, you then hit the shoulder, which then the consequences of getting that wrong are less damaging to the opposition player. So that's why they're doing it. Lower the target zone, then if the margin for error is significantly increased, where if the target zone is the shoulder and the target for error is neck or head, you know, the consequences can be quite, well, can result in a concussion, traumatic brain injury, etc., etc. But I would just rather see that policed with a greater degree of like severity for punishment, like it was in Magic Round. Have that communicated to the players, and have the referees and the game be hard on that for longer, and eventually you'll get conformity. I just worry that by going below the armpit, we're creating just an absolute minefield. And like I say, some of those kickoff runs, I honestly, I don't know how you stop them by going below the armpit. I just don't know if it's possible.
And I know you've spoken about that being something that gets removed from the game, but that's one of the best parts of the game is kickoff. When they first hit up in Origin is like the best moment
for a lot
of
of people. If you look at, you analyze the game, you watch the kickoff runs, you can't, like, and this is where it's different because people are running at such high speeds, both 50 meters apart, 60 meters apart. Yeah, they'd be 60 meters with the in goal line, or some players take that run from behind the in goal. You can't just dip. You can't do it. You will break your neck. Or the player will move. You don't have enough time to get underneath the ball in that situation. Look, and again, this makes me wonder if I would like to know who was on this board making these decisions. How many of those people have got like experience of being out there and like an actual understanding of the game? Because I think I honestly don't know if it's achievable. And look, I do care about player safety. I do care about player welfare, but it's not a top priority because safety is not a priority for everybody in any walk of life. It really isn't.
No.
When you drill down and you think about it, safety and like you think about most people that drive. How many people text, well, safety your top priority? You'd knock your phone off every time you got in the car, or you'd have a service in your car that would disable your phone while you drive, because it's safety, right? Safety is your priority. Get from A to B, but it's not, because you're put directions in and you get distracted. You might take a call. It's safety isn't it, people. Oh, one of our values is being safe. It's not,
and it's never going to be safe rugby league because it's a contact sport played by physically imposing people most of the time. So you're not going to get safety. But I actually just don't understand why the legal worry. It's like there's enough news is out there. You're trying to tell me the rugby league player doesn't know that there's a high chance of getting concussed playing rugby league, or that the concussion is bad for you.
Yeah.
That's not out. That's out there. I don't know how you could stand and argue that in court that players don't know what they get themselves into.
Well,
because if you can, I'm going to go. I smoked cigarettes when I was a teenager. I'm going to go to a cigarette company and sue them because I had no idea that smoking was bad for them.
The warning's on the pack now.
Yeah, but it wasn't back in the day.
Good luck.
You know, like why can't other people start suing for all sorts of things? It's ridiculous, to be honest. That the idea that players don't know what they've signed up for.
Yeah, look, I'm a big believer in people's freedom. Like I think back to how we reacted by COVID. Like I hated not being free, and people having the freedom to choose something potentially dangerous, especially when you're young. Like that's what young people do. They do dangerous things, and I get that. The argument back to me would be, well, we're doing this to protect those people from themselves. So when they become at a later age, they're not looking back and going, why did I do that? Why did nobody protect me? But, you know, like a seatbelt rule, for example. Well, freedom. I don't want it on. No, there's reasons why we have that. It's logical sense. There's no difference between putting the effort on to put a seatbelt on versus not. It makes total common sense. But I think with this, I don't know if it's achievable. I don't know if it's going to create more of a mess. It does then increase other types of concussions within the game. But again, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, we'll see the significant change and we'll look back at these comments and go, well, what a dick I was. I should have known better. I do want to put trust in those people that are making these decisions and are behind these decisions. But I'm hopeful that they get the desired outcome. Personally, bit skeptical, but I hope that they get the desired outcome. Reduced number of concussions all up, reduced degenerative brain issues later down the track, and greater participation. If they get those three things right and they all improve, then it's a win. We're going to take a quick break from this podcast to talk to you about AG1. Now, this is a product I've been taking for over a year now, and I absolutely love it. It gives me all of my daily nutritional needs in one easy drink. All you have to do is put in 1 scoop of AG1 into a nice cold glass of water, and you are set for the rest of the day. The cupboard has been cleaned out of tablets and powders because all my needs are met by AG1. The power of routine cannot be underestimated, and we all know how small habits lead to big wins. Some of those big wins for me have included better gut health. My clarity, especially in the afternoon, has improved so much. Gone has the mid-afternoon slump. AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement. Now, as humans, we all share that same basic foundational needs. That's where AG1 take care of everything. This supports your body's needs like nutrient replenishment, gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. AG1 is the supplement I trust to provide the support my body needs daily. And that's why they've been a partner and I've been a user for so long. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1, a buy-round exclusive. If you try AG1, you get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/buy-round. That's drinkag1.com/buy-round for our exclusive Australia-wide offer. Check it out.
Dig very deep on that one, but we should get to the mailbag.
Yes,
All thanks to
let's get into the mailbag.
How do you feel? I feel like a twoies or two.
I do actually feel like a twoies or two.
Same. That was a heavy chat. But these questions are not just from last week's concussion episode. We do have a concussion question, but they're sort of from a series of the whole season that we've done as a whole. And the first question is from @BooBear26 on YouTube, who said his question: should the NRL look at buying / taking over the English Super League? And that was off the back of the expansion episode.
I don't know about buying, but I think...
Is that because financially it'd be a bad decision for the NRL?
Well, no, but...
I don't mind the idea. I don't mind the idea of them taking over it and then rebranding it as, say, NRLE or ENRL, English NRL.
IMG have... it's partly owned by private equity now, so I think it's something that Volandis and Abdo would certainly look at. I don't know if it'd be on the horizon just yet. I don't know. Personally, I would like to see the Super League get more recognition. Like it was, it made me into, I guess, the player I was. I owe so much to the Super League and the people there. It doesn't get the exposure it deserves. Other sports are growing and going global, and rugby league is stuck, unfortunately, a little bit. And I guess there's an argument. Even I had that with Paul Wellens, former teammate, current coach of St Helens, and I'm talking about Jack Wellsby coming over here being good for the English game, and he's saying no, being good for the English game is him staying there because they need as much talent as they can get. But with the NRL coming in, you know what? There would be some advantage to it. But whether or not it's a smart financial decision is another question. All
right. J.R. Pete wants to know, my question for Jimmy, if the Rugby League Nines was brought back, would it follow the Auckland Nines, as it used to happen at the beginning of the year with the NRL club teams, the HSBC Sevens format of world teams? Or do you think a concept, which is his concept that he likes, do you think my concept of a tournament where the Super League and NRL comps run a separate Nines entity that plays monthly? If you don't agree, what would you like to see if a Nines came back?
I like the idea of the Nines because it appeals to very much younger generation that don't necessarily love the grind and the 80-minute gruel of 80 minutes of football and that attention span that it brings. I think that the Nines style tournament does bring a little bit more excitement. We've seen the popular
casual fans can get around a little bit.
Casual. It's entertaining.
It's sort of more of like a festival. It's a more Magic Round vibe of the crowd, isn't it? Everyone's been there, so drinking all day, dressed up in funny costumes. Actually,
you know what? I was listening to the Real Science in Sport podcast, and they speak about issues in sport, and one of the rugby sevens branded themselves as this big drinking thing. They had to sort of go away from that because it just became I think fans were going too nuts and not actually watching the game and getting booted, and I don't know if something actually quite tragic happened at one of those events. But I think sport is changing. There is now this. You've got to appeal. You look at cricket, for example, test matches are not what they used to be. I think there's still that traditionalist that wants a test match, but 2020, one day is night cricket. That's where it's going.
I disagree on the cricket side of things. I reckon test cricket is here to stay. I reckon that's the pinnacle. Most cricket fans love test cricket.
All right.
And I would say even if anything goes, probably one day cricket.
Okay.
All
right, mate. All right. That's fine. You think
disagree?
No.
You're a 2020 specialist?
No, of course I'm not. I just think that the way we watch sport and the attention span of this next generation, or a couple of younger generations, like the TikTok ones.
Yeah.
The TikTok generation, they want esport. They want esports. They want
not necessarily. I reckon that's sort of an old school perception of that younger generation. I think a lot of them love
esports is coming into the Olympics, Charlie.
Yeah. Esports, but that's just a certain type of fan base that's been able to access that.
Going back to if you want safe sports, play esports.
Well, not necessarily. You might get trolled while playing online. Someone might be in your ear saying horrible things to you. So nothing's safe.
You're an esporter.
I'm not an esporter. All right, we'll move on then. Next one is from...
I think in terms of bringing back the Nines, I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
I don't know in what format.
Well, what format? If you had to pick one out,
like-
international, club.
Yeah, I think international.
Yeah, okay.
International.
Yeah, cool. All right. Paul Turner, this was from the concussion question. He said he finds one of the biggest problems with how the media frames concussion is that any rugby league player that develops dementia is because of head clashes. It's wrong on so many levels. There are many factors that can cause dementia, including diet, lifestyle, stress, genetics, etc. Both my grandparents died due to dementia. They had never had a head knock in their entire lives, nor did they have unhealthy lifestyles. It's the leading cause of death in the elderly after heart disease, yet the media never reference that in context of rugby league. It's intellectually dishonest to do so.
Yeah, I used that very same argument once, blowing up about my grandparents that died from dementia, and said I can't recall them playing in the NRL or in the Super League. And my grandmother, don't know if I've got to believe her. I can't recall. She wasn't a drinker. She didn't drink at all, so she died of dementia. But I guess it's an age-related disease usually. I guess in the counter argument to that would be there does seem to be a correlation between the development of degenerative brain issues earlier on than the average member of the population in former contact sport athletes. Now, there are a number of reasons why that might be apparent, but I think exposure to contact sport does slightly increase your the possibility of a degenerative brain issue earlier on in life. But there are things that you can look to do to I view it as with degenerative brain issues, you can hit the brakes or you can hit the accelerator. I think, unfortunately, a lot of those former contact sport athletes hit the accelerator, which does contribute to it as well. But I don't think there's any denying that. Yeah, look, and even that I don't need a doctor or a scientist to take me out onto a rugby league field when I was 21, 22, and I was reckless and I was running into people and I was a bit of a psycho and I was getting up after being concussed and carrying on because they didn't care. Mm-hmm. I don't need a doctor to give me a shot. James, you know what you're doing here? Probably going to be bad when you're like 60, 70. I lived in the moment, and that's what young people do. I think one of the things that we don't speak about enough with the concussion is the education of the player, the importance of stressing to the player that it's wrong to continue on after a concussion. And here's some of the potential consequences. And if you carry on because we can't detect them all, this is what might happen, because we can't. And even one of the recommendations now is every player will wear a mouthpiece with which will record all the collisions. You have to wear a mouth guard. So that's great, but it's only what it does is it measures the number of G-forces in the collision. Now they've got, if it's over X Gs, then you have to be removed from the field of play. They've started this in rugby union, and I do think it's great, but it's like, so it'll go to computer, trigger, 10 blue has just been involved in a collision that's been registered with his or her mouth guard. That player needs to be removed because it's over X amount of Gs. Okay, we'll come off for an assessment. Well, that's great, but just because the hit is over a certain number of Gs doesn't mean that it actually is or it isn't. So there can be that false sense of security now where a player will put in the mouth guard and go, well, I'll just come off whenever I get hit this number of Gs. But you don't necessarily need X amount of Gs to be concussed. So I can't stress enough the importance of education and honesty with the players, because there's only one diagnosis. The best way to diagnose, the only way to diagnose concussion is honesty. There's no test. You can see if someone's been knocked out. That's clear.
Also, with that G-force thing, like every human's different. Like
it is.
Some might have a glass jaw. Yeah. Some might have a not so glass jaw. It's
nothing to do with a glass jaw. It's just
I know
number
the G's, but that's what I'm saying. Like if you, a hit might not actually impact someone that much.
Exactly, but it's erring on the side of caution, Charlie. So if you get this XG, X whatever X is plus, and it sends an alert to the laptop, 10 blue needs to be removed from the field. They just go for an assessment because that's been recorded as a really high possibility of suffering a concussion. And look, honesty is the best policy. That's what needs to be instructed to the players.
Yeah, that's it for the concussion section of the show. Next one.
All right. We have, but I think it's relevant. It's topical.
Yeah,
it's important. And look, I did the podcast series on concussion, head noise, and I know all about the dangers. I know all about the like my own personal health issues. Arguably from that, I get it. I'm part of the Concussion Legacy Foundation board. I get the importance of it, but what I don't want to see is incorrect solutions to a very complex problem, and actually potential solutions that make the issue worse.
All right, next question. User 57. Can we bring in promotion and relegation? Only New South Wales and Queensland Cup teams are promoted and relegated. Add New South Wales teams like the way it used to be. Even if it means PNG Hunters are promoted, then so be it. One team each cup plus one from a decider between the two second place teams. So 3 up, 3 down every year is what he's saying.
You want to go? Keep going.
No. If he said one team relegated the 3 annually. NRL affiliate clubs don't promote. Refer to Barcelona B team. They've never promoted to top division. And the TV revenue for the reserve grades would grow because it also raises their importance and the prestige of the NRL.
I completely disagree. It would be a shit show. I don't think you can have a salary cap sport and have promotion and relegation. Look, they do it in the Super League. Generally speaking, team goes down, all their players go to the team that comes up, they get relegated. It's just that constant cycle. I think we're a franchise-based model here, and we're going to stick with it. I love the romance of promotion and relegation, and we look at Leicester. Oh, they came up. Man City. Oh, look, they were 15 years ago, they were in Division 2. How good is that? But these examples are few and far between, and that romantic side of, okay, a team from New South Wales Cup or Queensland Cup coming up and being promoted, it just wouldn't work over here.
Yeah.
It would mess up the salary cap. Like, how could a team that gets, unless we move to like a genuine trade period, we couldn't even entertain the thoughts. So until that happened, you could not entertain. I love the romance of it, and this, and everything that comes with it, and I love the excitement and the tension that it would bring towards the back end of the season to those teams at the lower end of the competition. But also, let's not forget, our league table in the NRL is not a true reflection of who is the best or worst team, because we don't play each other home and away. We don't play each team home and away
twice. Yep. One home, one away. Yep.
And we have an origin period where teams are disproportionately affected. So there is no way we can bring in a promotion and relegation, because the league table does tell lies. And I think it would be grossly unfair to teams that got a bad draw, affected by origin, etc., etc.
In England, I mean, you look at it, even like the teams in the championship, a lot of them are on their knees. And like, yes, if you get promoted, you get like tens and tens of millions to completely rebuild your club. But so I'm a Reading FC supporter. I was born in Reading. And like, we're now in League One, can't even pay the wage bill and getting points deducted. And it's like, that was a team that was in the Premier League not that long ago. It's like, there's no real money in championship. Not as many people turn up to games. Like Reading, it was like I said, Premier League team not long ago. It can't even sell out a 20,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work. There's not enough money in the sport for that model anyway.
And you can, like I say, I use that phrase, get caught up in the romance. You don't realise about the shit show that happened. Look at Wigan Athletic. Like, another team crippled by, the highs of the Premier League. Leeds United, they took us such a long time to get back. They're now back in division. Like, they spent all their money trying to win the Champions League. They blew it. They didn't. They were like 10 minutes off a Champions League final in the semi, and then didn't make them the following year. It went bust. Freaking struggled for.
And there's countless stories like that in England, like Bolton, Portsmouth, these teams that have come
but
and
then
gone.
People will point to the example of Manchester City, and no.
But we would never have a team like Manchester City, because we probably would never have the Saudi Arabian richest people in the world come and buy one of our sporting franchise because the
you couldn't,
benefit isn't
because
big
your
enough.
salary capped as well.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. All right, we'll do this as the last question. It's sort of a bigger picture, but this was from Madge Blake. And he said, I'm enjoying these discussions, but it is very striking that the biggest issues in the game are those as seen by players. If you ask a few fans, there's absolutely no way social media would be one of the biggest talking points in the game. Maybe next time, could you consider talking about the refereeing? Are the players overcoached? As players get bigger and stronger, is the game too violent? Does the salary cap work, etc.?
Well, yeah, everyone's going to have their different opinion on what the 10 biggest issues in the game are. I think social media, it's not just an issue in the game, it's an issue in society. I disagree.
I think social media is quite an important issue personally.
Yeah.
And I think the way that the game is covered on social media is an important issue as well.
Absolutely. And some of those points, they're very valid, but they don't necessarily make for good debate or conversation.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't do 45 minutes on the wrestle.
no, exactly. Like,
That would be a tough episode.
Like, is the wrestle good or bad for the game? Well,
Yeah.
just it is the game.
Yeah.
Like, you might.
I think refereeing is a good point. We probably could have done refereeing.
Yeah, refereeing.
Good one for next year.
Yeah, refereeing is a good one, but again, like, two refs, one ref.
Yeah.
And we touched on the bunker. I'm sure
we did touch the bunker.
Yeah.
No, we did.
Yeah,
I think that was in the future of the game.
Yeah, future of the game. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we touched on a few of those topics. I think fans get frustrated by the wrestle, but I think it's been around for so long now. It's like, how do you?
And that was like interesting what you and Mitchell, for the episodes coming out Sunday, you and Mitchell Pearce spoke about how England there's a lot more wrestle or more holding down. Yeah.
No, the play the ball speed is a lot slower in the Super League.
But yeah, that's it for the questions for today.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Sorry that we dominated the chat with the new laws being introduced.
No, it was good chat.
But I think it is important. And look, I sincerely hope they get the desired outcome. I know I've been slightly critical. It's such a complex issue, and I don't know if there's right or wrong answers in this. I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't know if safety in sport is the number one priority. I don't think safety in life is the number one priority. So, yeah, I guess we'll see where this goes, and if they do it, you know what will be really interesting if they implement it in 2025 in the professional Super League game. Then, where does that leave the international game?
We'll just have to wait and see. It's one of those issues that isn't going anywhere. Instead, I think it seems like we're sort of going to go further and further down that rabbit hole. But in my opinion, I think you have to look at yourself if you're a footy player and be honest and be the fact that, you know what you're signing up for. And if you come out now in 20 years' time from this moment here and so you didn't know what you're signing up for, you're lying to yourself. And, not everything should always be about pursuing money, pursuing legal cases. Rugby league's a sport that gives a lot of people opportunities, and not everyone's going to be highly successful in it. So, of course, some people might come out of it a bit bitter and feel like they were maybe wronged in certain ways. But to say that you don't know the risks on a rugby league field, you can tell the risks being out there because it feels dangerous.
I didn't need a doctor or a medical researcher or a neuropsychologist, neuroscientist, anybody to tell me that what I was doing was fucking risky. And what I was doing was I was gonna pay a price for that later on. And even if I'd have listened and it's the Goldman's dilemma. It's Goldman's dilemma where you take this tablet, you get success, but it comes at a cost and you die later down the track. And I knew that. And I knew that the reality of what I was doing was reducing my potential lifespan and my potential for my potential health span. But that I wasn't in the game of trying to live as long or as healthy as possible for as long as possible. But I was interested in being in the moment and playing a game that made me feel alive. And that without this game, like in terms of like health span and lifespan, they are shortened anyway. If you look at I can only speak from my experiences, but my experience, my life with, my life without, I think my lifespan and health span are greater with the game versus without it, based off a number of decisions I know would have made.
Well, we will be back.
We will be back next year.
We'll be back next year with Round Table. 10 new issues.
Not necessarily 10 new issues, because some of these issues will come. So, for example, the concussion issue might
have changed.
Well, that might have changed. Yeah.
We won't bring social media back if people don't like it. We'll get rid of that.
You never,
or maybe we will.
Maybe we will. We just don't know.
But yeah, we're Thursday, jam and cheese. Brandon Smith's back as well.
Is he?
Yep. And then we've got Mitchell Pearce Sunday. He's confirmed, yep.
Oh, yes. I'm looking forward to it.
Shane Flanagan is in the works as well. Hopefully we're ending the year with a Shane Flanagan interview as well, Dragons fans. Stay tuned.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you very soon.